Oh, that's a little tart. Probably should add it more. That's fine. Anyway, welcome back. Today we're going to continue talking about the Resident Evil movies. Not that one, not that one. We're talking about this one today. Last time we talked about Resident Evil Degeneration, and if you want to watch that, that'll be linked up in the cards. However, we're talking about Resident Evil Damnation. And before we get started, a couple of notes. First, how we're doing this. I am laying out a complete summary of the movie. That means everything. Full spoilers ahead. Then I'll talk about why Resident Evil Damnation is important to the overarching, franchise of Resident Evil. And then I'll rank it the way I rank all media in my brain. Was it worth watching once? And is it worth watching multiple times? And that's pretty much it. However, before we get started, I do also want to note that I don't like Resident Evil Damnation. And it's not just... I had to rewatch it in order to write the script for this. And I didn't have fond memories of it. And rewatching it made me realize that I don't like it because I do like it. There's a lot of really interesting stuff going on in this movie. It just doesn't focus on the stuff that I personally would like it to focus on. So that's why I don't like it. However, if you do really enjoy this movie, I'm really happy for you because it is a very fun movie, I think, for the right audience. I'm just not that right audience. I do, however, think that this is definitely worth watching, if only for the one-liners. Beside the point, let's actually get into the movie. So imagine this. The year is 2012, i.e. the year that everybody thought the world was going to end, when I finally started actually playing video games, and right before Capcom realized that they had seriously fucked up by turning Resident Evil into a co-op action game. It's also when Resident Evil Damnation came out. Now, some interesting things to talk about with Resident Evil Damnation. Our returning cast is technically Leon, Ada, and Hunnigan, but Ada and Hunnigan take such a backseat to Leon that I think Ada only has 3 scenes that she's in that Leon isn't also in, so count that for what you will. This is also the first time that we have Matthew Mercer as Leon's voice actor in the movies, which is interesting. And second, I don't think this movie actually gives all that much to Resident Evil as a franchise. It's kind of just an advertisement for Resident Evil 6, except I liked Resident Evil 6 more than I liked this movie. So like Degeneration did, Damnation opens with this big info dump about the Soviet Union and the fictional Eastern Slav Republic, which is kind of just a little bit bizarre to hear real life events being tied into fiction this way. So essentially, right now, what's happening is there's a rebellion going on in the Eastern Slav Republic, which has led to an ongoing civil war. The First Lady President, Svetlana Belikova, I believe, called for a ceasefire with the freedom fighters, which didn't work because that land that the freedom fighters reside on has oil. So what does the government do? The same thing they always do. We want the oil because we want the money. So the war continues with the Eastern Slav Republic claiming that the rebels are terrorists, which ends up just radicalizing the pro-independence movement even further. It's a mess, because most civil wars are a mess. But when we actually get into the movie, we open on Leon, who has just dropped into an absolute war zone in full tactical gear. He is on assignment for the CIA. His mission has been aborted due to the escalation, and he's talking to Hunnigan with this, and this is the only time you'll see Hunnigan. And he's supposed to be heading towards an extraction point. So what do you think he does? He complains about being taken out when he just fucking got there, and he has to stay to fight the BOWs. And Hunnigan tells him, you have to go or you could cause an international incident. Leon just decides, You know what? Then I guess I have to lose my American citizenship for a while, and that is me paraphrasing the actual line. They go hard with the one-liners here. In some cases, a little too hard, in my opinion. But what is my opinion worth? Honestly, this entire thing doesn't really make too much sense. Why is Leon there to investigate bioweapons? Wouldn't that be the BSAA? Because after all, the BSAA became a very legitimate organization after Revelations. This takes place after Revelations. It takes place between Resident Evil 5 and Resident Evil 6. Yes, that's the one. Resident Evil 6. And Revelations 2, technically. It's fine. But this scene is funny enough that I really don't care that it doesn't make too much sense, because it's fine. However, this is where my problem comes in, is that there's not a lot of logic or reasoning to this movie, to the point where I'm questioning, well, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? How do you know where to go? And they explain it after I've already had time to question it, which is my only problem with this, is oftentimes that's the problem. The character does something, and I know the character knows why they're doing it, but I, as the viewer, am like, okay, how do you know where to go? And it's not explained until after I've been taken out of the movie, which is my problem. It's my brain. That's how my brain works. Anyway, we move on. So after Leon hangs up on Hunnigan, like, how rude, my guy, Leon heads down into a parking garage. On his way, he sees this, like, truck with a cartoon bee on it. It's one of those, like, little packing trucks, like a U-Haul almost. I want to say it's a semi-truck, but it's not as big as a semi-truck, so you get my point. And it's got a cartoon bee on it, which seems unrelated. I know it seems unrelated, but they wouldn't have focused on it if it wasn't important, and it is important. So anyway, when he goes into the garage, he finds a dying man that he was supposed to meet with, Scarecrow, and the informer, with his dying breath, says beekeeper, which means, of course, Capcom has to kind of smash your head in with a chair. They give you not just a flashback of the truck with the bee on it, but Leon has to verbally mention the truck, because apparently we've all gotten a quick bit of amnesia just for that. Okay. As Leon is trying to get more information from this man after he has that realization, a licker pops out of nowhere, and we're being ambushed, because of course we have to bring back lickers. They're horrifying! Why are they here? They never answer why T-virus monsters are here. I mean, I guess you could assume things, but they don't actually explain it, and I'm already a little bit critical, so I'm going overcritical. It's fine, there's a licker here. The licker kills the informer and then turns to Leon. However, as Leon is shooting at this licker with an assault rifle, the licker actually is making very deliberate moves to dodge Leon's shots and try to escape. He continues to shoot at the licker, and then suddenly there's a little minor explosion in the parking garage. Leon is fine, obviously. I don't know what caused the explosion. Like, I literally played this back. There's never an instance where Leon hits anything explosive, which makes me think it was a predetermined detonation. I'm getting into CinemaSins territory where I'm being really nitpicky. We're moving on. So as Leon is laying on the ground after this explosion, the licker starts approaching to attack Leon, only to withdraw at the last second and kind of look off to the side, and then off to the side, out comes this old man. And Leon looks up at this old man, and then very conveniently loses consciousness. Because convenience. The licker goes to, like, eat Leon or something, and the old man puts his hand out, making it very clear that the old man is somehow commanding the licker. This is important. This is literally the core thing here. When Leon wakes up, he's being held captive underground. It might be under a house, but we never see above it, so for all intents and purposes, it's just underground, by the pro-independence movement. And the army is investigating the building above them, which, like I said, I believe is a house. The freedom fighters have confiscated all of his gear, pretty much, and this one guy is wearing it. This guy is JD, who's a whole moment. One of the guys shushes Leon and makes him stay quiet because, of course, his immediate reaction to waking up in a strange place is, what the hell is going on? Army up above, can't say shit. So when the army does leave, we are introduced to a couple characters. Like I said, the aforementioned JD, who's in Leon's tactical gear. This guy who kind of looks like a weird version of Chris Redfield from Vendetta, but he's much, like, skinnier, not muscly, not bulky. This is Sasha. I love Sasha. And the old man, whose name is Ataman. So, I need to explain to you why Sasha is important. Essentially, Sasha is supposed to lead the pro-independence movement after Ataman, the current leader, dies. And, like I said, Ataman is the same guy who is commanding the liquor. I say this now because, trust me, when it's dropped later, it's like little tiny nit bits, and it's easier for me to just say it now. Sasha says they need to stay put for now because the army will come back, and I'm not really sure what that's supposed to mean. Anyway, then we actually get properly introduced to JD. He's super endearing, so we need to worry about him. And by the way, the jokes about Leon's vacation being ruined comes from this. While being interrogated by Sasha and JD, Leon says that he was on vacation and now it got ruined because he got put here, taken off furlough in order to be in this, and then they drag him out and it's all a whole mess, and why can't he just have a vacation? Yeah, I'm sorry, Leon. Now, it's worth mentioning that Leon has a lot of really funny one-liners, so does JD. However, the comedic timing cannot save this movie for me. But you will get a couple chuckles out of it, which is nice. There is, however, a good tonal disconnect to mention when you consider, like, Leon and JD versus Sasha, who's, like, so fucking serious all the time. Dude, this man needs to lower his blood pressure because he is so stressed all the time. Did I mention Ada was in this? Yeah, so we're sitting with Svetlana, the president of the Eastern Slav Republic, and she's arguing with her council, who I believe are supposed to be the country's elders, but they never actually get positively identified, so it doesn't really matter, I guess. And she's talking to them about how the Eastern Slav Republic should have already become a part of the UN, and the terrorists have ruined it, and then Ada comes in to visit Svetlana during this meeting. She's there under the pretense that she is a part of the BSAA. It's weird. So Ada is giving the BOW talk to Svetlana, for those that are uninitiated. So she talks about the different viruses, how it's become part of bioterrorism, and on a worldwide scale. We already know this if we've played the games. But this is for people that are just watching the movie. So it's convenient, it serves its purpose. Svetlana mentions that the BOWs seem impractical on a full warfare scale, and she's right, this is very important. And this is where Ada drops this gem, perhaps the most interesting part of this movie. Las Plagas can and is being used to create BOWs who will obey their masters, similar to how Sadler controlled the Ganados in Resident Evil 4, but now with BOWs infected with the T-virus already, like the liquor. Ada compares it to a relationship with a queen bee, with the camera focusing on Svetlana here, and her worker bees. The camera shifts to the people sitting in the room. It's super clever cinematography, and I love it. Just a little bit. Then, back with Leon, JD introduces himself and talks. He's a super American fanboy, which somehow just makes America seem even sadder than it already is. Leon's radio, phone, satellite phone, whatever, rings, and Leon's like, do not push that button. And JD, I'm not gonna fall for that, destroys the phone. And it's this very awkward shot where they're just nodding at each other. However, Ataman, the older man, his condition is rapidly deteriorating. He's coughing, like, a lot. And Leon and JD are very reasonably concerned. However, when the army comes back, they hear his coughing, because of course they come back at the perfect time. Sasha, this is why you should have left, but this is fine. Leon, JD, and Sasha are both restrained, and a group of soldiers actually surround Ottoman. Leon, as Ottoman continues coughing, warns them that he has turned, and Ottoman dramatically lifts his head to reveal red eyes. He has become a Ganado. Anyway, Sasha uses that distraction to take a soldier's gun and shoot the others in the back. Somehow, we do not shoot the old man. JD tries to get Ottoman out and is shot, but Leon's gear protects him. It's just a very dramatic thing where JD pretends that he's not wearing a bulletproof vest. Sasha and him take Ottoman and they proceed with Leon very stealthily following. However, halfway through their journey, not even halfway, but very soon after their journey, Ottoman stops them and gives a very short speech encouraging Sasha to create a new future before Sasha shoots him in order to prevent his mentor from fully turning. It's kind of tragic. Anyway, at this point, Sasha and JD split up, with Sasha asking JD to go to the church. And Leon, somehow in the span of the minute that he picked up a gun from the ground, loses them. So when he gets to a fork in the road, he goes to one side and ends up actually following JD instead of Sasha. He finds JD hiding, terrified from his Plaga-infected friends. It's really convenient and weird. JD protests Leon killing his comrades and almost dies himself because he doesn't want to hurt these people who are his friends. Leon manages to save JD from being killed, and JD swears that the next time he will use the assault rifle that he stole from Leon, and ends up guiding Leon to the church with him. Now, I do have to mention a little thing about the Ganados here. They're more akin to zombies than the enemies that you fight in Resident Evil 4. It also kind of seems like everyone except for those that need to be uninfected are infected with Las Plagas. And it's kind of strange, since the Plaga previously had to be injected and then have time to hatch. These Ganados have the ability to take a fully formed Plaga from themselves and infect others. Now, the Plaga are controlled by these freedom fighters, which makes the reason why they're actively spreading Las Plagas to their freedom fighters really kind of just bizarre choicing. We never find out, and I wish that we did, because this is a very interesting dynamic here, and I want to know more, but they never tell us more, so alas. Leon and JD finally arrive at the church, which is kind of interesting because it looks like a cross between Salazar's castle and the church in Leon's campaign in RE6. It's just interesting architecture, okay? JD is totally floored about the infection, knows absolutely nothing, and Leon makes this very fun claim. The only way to save a person with Las Plagas is to either kill them or tear out their spinal column and hope for paralysis. My guy, is that really your best solution? You're not gonna mention surgery? There's a lot of conveniences when it comes to the Las Plagas lore, some of which is not, I won't say it's directly contradictory, because there is such a possibility as learning more about a species, but it does also kind of directly contradict what Luis said in Resident Evil 4, but we're gonna move past it. Anyway, so Sasha shows up and affirms that Leon is correct, that everybody is infected and there's no way to save them, and then they recapture Leon. Why? I'm not really sure. Sasha explains to JD that he has to willingly infect himself with the Master Plaga to take over for Ottoman and give these infected Ganados orders. So, effectively, the reason why they're acting so zombie-like right now is because they don't have a master. Now, if you just played Resident Evil 4 Remake, that's going to seem weird to you. It should. Ignore it and move on. This was made before that. JD, very obviously, has problems with the idea of his friend willingly infecting himself and frees Leon. Leon's entire stance is that any use of BOWs is bad. JD's stance is really interesting, because JD very rightfully says that if the pro-independence movement hadn't used the Plaga, then their movement would have been completely ignored by the rest of the world and very quietly exterminated. And it is now that I would like to remind you that the Eastern Slav Republic is less of a republic and more of a fascist state. The writing is pulling very hard on the Soviet Union. It's history and it's fairly interesting, so I recommend you looking it up. It's just interesting, and all I'm saying is that there are real-world parallels here to look at if you want to dig deeper. But that's all digging deeper. Let's go back to the movie. JD begs Leon to help Sasha, and then we learn that Sasha, JD, and Irina are childhood friends. If you have no idea who Irina is, that is because she is dead. Sasha and Irina were in love, and the government attacked the school where they both worked as school teachers, which ended up killing Irina, and it led Sasha to join the independence movement. JD is only there to protect Sasha the best he can, and now he asks Leon to do it for him, giving Leon back his gun. Unfortunately, when Leon runs off to find Sasha, JD and the church fall under attack. We never actually see this attack, we only see the aftermath. It's still really rough. So at this point, Leon returns to the destroyed parking garage where he finds an empty case. I don't know why he returns to this parking garage or why he felt like that case would be there, but unfortunately, as we've already seen in like a little snippet before, Sasha has already taken the samples in it. Leon is then ambushed by Ada, they chat a little bit, and Ada is deliberately vague about her purpose there as per usual, but she does mention that her job will be easier if the infected freedom fighters attack the capital, which is their current plan. And as she leaves, she warns Leon, hey, by the way, this town's gonna be purged soon, and Leon gets his, iconic women line. We get a quick shot of Svetlana ordering an attack, on who, she doesn't say, before requesting that Ada be brought to her. Then we're back with Leon as he returns to the church, where he parkours his way in since it's swarmed by Ganados. It's a moment, okay? However, inside, everyone is already dead, with JD having shot someone right before Leon arrived. This is based on the organization of scenes, presumably the attack that Svetlana ordered, but I don't think it is because we find out later that it's a different attack. It's confusing, okay, as far as shot-wise. It doesn't really matter, okay? It doesn't really matter. The fact is, these people are dead, and JD has killed someone. Leon tries to convince JD to leave with him, but JD says, oh no, I have to do something first. He hands Leon back all of his tactical gear and offers a fist bump, at which point Sasha arrives. JD starts coughing, and Sasha assumes that Leon did something to him. But really, JD was infected in the attack. He lunges towards Sasha, and Leon shoots him in the legs to stop him. Classic game strategy. And then, with his last moments of clarity, JD affirms again that he was only a part of the rebellion for his friends, before his head bursts into that tentacly thing that we hate so much. At this point, Leon says that he wanted to show JD America before the camera cuts away and we hear the gunshots that take down the only comic relief character, of course. Off-screen, Sasha and Leon both cover up the dead, and Leon tries to talk Sasha into giving him the plaga. Sasha refuses, stating that Leon's refusal to give up his gun is your answer and my answer. This is important because it's reflected later on. Similarly to that, if you don't try to save one life, you'll never save any in Degeneration. Then the church begins to crumble, and Sasha is able to make his escape. Meanwhile, Svetlana has apparently been investigating Ada while destroying her own city. Her aide informs her that Ada is not, in fact, from the BSAA. Beautiful. And as the sun rises, the military is fully prepared for the rebels' attack, they think. 3 trucks arrive at the gates with the cartoon bee on them, and the defenses are subsequently wiped out by lickers. Now, we don't see this fight, it kind of cuts away. So at this time, Svetlana and Ada are having tea as the president questions Ada about her allegiance. It leads to a pretty cool fight between Svetlana and Ada. I will say the fight choreography in this is not my favorite. Even in this, it's a pretty interesting fight, but it's just not as well choreographed as the one from Degeneration, in my opinion. But it's exciting and proves that Ada actually did take Leon's advice about knives close to heart. Knives work better for close encounters! It's also worth mentioning that this fight also is just a little bit objectifying. There's an abuse of slow motion, which is just on par for the course when you take into account Resident Evil 6, and it's a little bit overly showy in my opinion, but that's my opinion. Their fight is interrupted, and Svetlana gets the news that the pro-independence movement has broken through the defenses of her palace, and Ada tries to run, only for the entire room to lock down in a cheesy 80s action film kind of way, i.e. the office is also an elevator. It's very strange. Anyway. So after all the carnage, Leon finally arrives and is walking through the just mess that has been left by the Lickers and the army clashing. It's kind of horrible. In one hallway, after he makes his way into the palace, there are two Lickers that get the jump on him, but since they're, blind, he tries to sneak past them. Unfortunately, a dying soldier grabs his ankle, which kind of forces him into a mad dash into the president's office, which has descended with Ada, if you remember. So, of course, it's like, oh! The cartoony bit. Anyway. Now, Ada has been tied up by her hands, but she learned from that time that Sadler did it to her, so she's got a knife hidden in her heel. She apparently had planned to get into this exact position and commented on, "That was easier than I expected." Below the palace, there's an old nuclear shelter, and Leon and Ada end up meeting there. Now, this nuclear shelter has like this kind of beehive type thing, and a lot of shipping containers. It's just a set suspension of disbelief. Anyway, so the little high-tech beehive is a nursery for the dominant Plaga species. So as Ada is working, Svetlana and her men actually surround them and corner them. Ada kills the lights, and her and Leon somehow manage to disappear in the chaos. Miraculously, no one gets shot, even though Svetlana's men open fire. In fact, Leon actually manages to take the president hostage. Okay. He assumes that she's the beekeeper, but she replies, "No, I'm the president." And they do a quick close corners bit, with Leon proving that he's forgotten what weapon is best for close encounters. Okay. Before Svetlana declares him an enemy of the state, and her men open fire on him. While Leon scrambles for cover, a soldier screams over the radio that monsters are approaching, and Svetlana's men just kind of leave Leon alone to gather at the elevator. The elevator opens to one Licker that they open fire at and kill fairly easily before venturing in to verify that it's dead. There's many more on the ceiling, so you can imagine how that works. The Lickers decimate Svetlana's men at Sasha's order, and when Leon tries to confront him, Sasha sicks a Licker on him. Sorry, Leon! Oh, and Leon takes a beat to apologize to JD and drink mid-battle before resolving to try to kill Sasha. Which means, effectively, Leon is trying to chase Sasha while dodging Lickers. That is, until Sasha actually calls them all to try to kill Svetlana, but she gets behind a piece of glass and they apparently can't break bulletproof glass. It's a moment. Svetlana then tells Sasha that all of the elders he looked up to, except for Ottoman, had actually switched to her side when she promised them a cut of the oil profits. How tragic. The Lickers try to resume their attack on her, but a canister rises from the floor with a Mr. X the size of a semi-truck that kind of looks like he's going to a BDSM club. It's weird. Anyway, the security system detects the tyrant, but not the Lickers somehow, and announces incineration measures as a second one is released. Oh my gosh, 2 tyrants. Great. Sasha and Leon both fight back as best as they can to cover their escape, but the Lickers are no match for Mr. X. Leon is! He's got experience. He manages to actually cover Sasha as they run, even when the Lickers fail to even put a scratch on these tyrants. They finally get to the elevator, but it's been locked down. They both turn towards where a tyrant is charging at them, but as usual, Ada has his back and has ensured an escape route for Leon. That's just her thing at this point, isn't it? The jet ski, the helicopter in Resident Evil 6, and now the elevator. They very quickly board the elevator and try to get it closed before the tyrant gets there, which they apparently need Sasha's liquors to, like, tackle him in order to buy them a little bit more time. They also have a quiet moment where Sasha asks Leon why he's helping, and Leon says it's because he needs someone that has witnessed this to tell the world. And as he says that, a tyrant forces the door open, so Sasha and Leon have to try to escape by climbing up the elevator shaft before the elevator drops from the tyrant's weight. They manage it. Svetlana is celebrating her victory when she gets the news that Leon and Sasha have managed to escape the underground bunker of death. And as they run outside of the palace, they witness a tyrant killing a civilian. But Leon stops Sasha from intervening and draws them away instead. What happens next is probably one of the weirder fights in Resident Evil history, and honestly, you probably need to watch this movie just to see this, because you won't believe me. I mean, it's wild enough seeing Sasha strategically use liquors to lure the tyrants into traps for Leon to trigger. It's even wilder to see how much damage these tyrants can take, and even the rocket launcher isn't fire to win here. Plus, there's 1 minute where Leon gets thrown into a stone pillar by one of the tyrants, his spine snaps, and somehow he's not dead. Leon needs a chiropractor really bad. What I will say, though, is that Sasha does everything possible to save Leon when really he's shown no reason to even want to help Leon. They've been combative all movie, but now that's changed without the work being done. I really don't know why they're helping each other in this case, but okay. And they keep pulling weapons out of like nowhere, including a freaking tank. It's kind of bizarre. And this is when they go ham on the one-liners. It's just one-liner after one-liner after one-liner after one-liner, and it's a lot. Also, yes, I get sad about Sasha's liquors dying. They were really good puppies, okay? They were so good trying to defend them. The liquors are the real MVPs here. And now, I need you guys to understand, Leon might not have been able to get drinks with Mike, the helicopter pilot, but by golly, he's gonna try his hardest to get that drink with Sasha. He literally picks this man up, and they run on foot from not one, but 2 new tyrants that just pop out of nowhere after they defeat the one they're fighting. And then we get Svetlana, who's practicing her speech for the incident. We also learn that she's actually executed all of the elders who joined her side and plans to pin it on the pro-independence movement. She also reported Ada to Interpol and the BSAA. So essentially, Ada's got an international warrant out for her arrest. That's an interesting thing to add in. As her aide leaves, she actually expresses joy of a new tomorrow coming, which I just want to note as interesting because that's exactly what Ottoman said to Sasha before he died. Not exactly, but it's akin to each other. It's interesting. We resume with Sasha and Leon running from the very large tyrants, except for the fact that they both have decided to stop running. Sasha is collapsed on the ground, and Leon is completely out of ammo. So he pulls out his knife. Now you pull out your knife to fight a tyrant who's charging at you. And then Hunnigan comes through. U.S. fighters have arrived just in time to save the day. Well, technically U.S. and Russian fighters. Svetlana begins her statement, and her aide interrupts to bring news that America and Russia are now attacking them. She can't spin it as terrorists launching a BOW-powered attack anymore, because the proof is right there. Sasha and Leon move away, and they look out over the city as the sun begins to set. I know this entire fight has taken a full day, and I really don't understand how. Leon is drinking out of his flask, and Sasha's coughing just keeps getting worse. Leon passes his flask to Sasha, and Sasha talks about how much this fight has cost him, how there's nothing left for him to keep fighting for, and he begs Leon to kill him before he becomes a monster. During all this, Leon keeps his back to Sasha, and Sasha ends up pulling out his own gun to do it himself. Dude, you had a gun while Leon was fighting with going to fight a tyrant with a knife? As he is about to put the gun in his mouth, Leon takes the gun away from him. And Leon proceeds to give a speech that is simultaneously really depressing and inspiring, calling back to the conversation in the church. They have to keep fighting. That is my answer and your answer. Leon shoots Sasha, finally calling him buddy, like JD used to. And I know, I just said Leon shoots Sasha. It's super fucking confusing. But we'll get to it. We then get Leon watching the news and drinking in a hotel room. Hunnigan is on the line, Jack-free, and gives us the epilogue. Svetlana has resigned, and companies supporting her will be dismantled. Leon deduces that top brass knew about everything the whole time and chose to leave him in the dark. Hunnigan is concerned about him, but he says that nothing has changed, hangs up, and walks out of the room. Now, the reason why nothing has changed is because Leon was blackmailed into joining the government. Fun fact. We then get a clip of Ada saying how everything went to plan, the facility was destroyed, and she has the plaga, but she doesn't know if she should give it to her employer. Now, we don't really see this employer or hear his voice, but it might be Simmons. I'm pretty sure it's Simmons. That would make sense if it was Simmons, considering it precedes Resident Evil 6. Anyway, beside the point. Her employer offers, via email or whatever, to get rid of the warrant for her arrest in exchange for the plaga. She playfully says that, okay, but it would have been fun to add to her profile. Then the credits roll. Well, kind of. There's an end credit scene that shows you the end of Sasha's story. It's very heartwarming, so I'm not going to spoil that. You have to see it for yourself. I will have a link to buy or rent the movie on YouTube down below. Now, the real credits, with truly awesome music, is also accompanied by a trailer for Resident Evil 6. Because, yeah, apparently this movie is just a glorified Resident Evil 6 advertisement that has no connection to the game, either thematically or narratively. It's a choice. I mean, I wasn't upset about it to see that at the end of the movie, so... But where did all the T-virus creatures come from? Like, seriously, they tell us about the plagas, but the Lickers and Tyrants are both from T, so... Is T-virus, like, seriously that well distributed among terrorists in the Resident Evil universe? So now, the final verdict. For me, this movie is only really fun in the last few minutes, and it's not really fun enough for an hour and 40-minute movie to warrant watching multiple times for me. Frankly, the plot about the pro-independence movie, Sasha and JD, was really cool, and the political intrigue is not poorly done, but Leon's involvement is ham-fisted at best to me, and as a returning character, Ada earns her involvement, but Leon doesn't, and it kind of seems like he's only there to deliver one-liners, take up space, and say, look, I'm important. Now, don't get me wrong, there needed to be a returning character like Leon, but I just feel like he's not integrated into the plot well, and it feels like the focus really should be on Sasha, who's a surprisingly impactful and well-rounded character, considering he's only really given any time in the second half of the movie. Now, the CGI is definitely better than Degeneration, obviously, but can still look a little uncanny sometimes. Honestly, it does look a lot better than Resident Evil 6, though, in most cases. The artistic cinematography is also really nice, but the fight scenes definitely took a hit, in my opinion. Now, it doesn't actually contribute anything to the franchise outside of some extra characterization for Leon, but we've gotten those same character beats from him in other media that I feel like was better executed. It's an action conspiracy movie that isn't particularly good, but neither was Degeneration. There are some parts that are fun, but it's not fun enough for me. I don't know, I would say it's worth watching, but you wouldn't really have to rewatch it often. It doesn't give you much to rewatch it for, because the events in it never actually affect anything. which is kind of sad. This was a very interesting movie on a textbook level. Like I said, I'm interested in the conflict in the Eastern Slav Republic and how the oligarchy actually ended up feeding Plaga to the freedom fighters in order to essentially destabilize their entire movement because they were desperate and took whatever weapon they could get. It's interesting. I just probably wouldn't opt to watch it again. Anyway, so I know I've said I was going to end with Infinite Darkness, but actually I think I'm going to end with Vendetta, since Vendetta leads directly into Death Island, which is what I'm doing this entire series for. So next time we will be back with Infinite Darkness, which is going to be a hike. Granted, it's only 4 episodes, but that's still a solid 4 hours. So expect a long one there. Anyway, make sure to hit that subscribe button if, you're interested in this kind of stuff, and ring that bell if you want to know when I come out with the Infinite Darkness video. If you want to see other Resident Evil videos that I've already made, I'll put the playlist here and a recommended video here. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and you know what? Even though I've kind of dug into Damnation during this, I do hope that you guys give it a chance, if only to hear some truly iconic one-liners from Leon. Honestly, this is about as close to classic Resident Evil 4 Leon that we get as far as dialogue writing. So it's kind of fun for that. Anyway, bye-bye!